welcome back. It's been a couple of months. Let me catch you up, what they've looked like, as well as talk about this bad boy, and that's no other than the FUJI X100V1, X100VI. We got to figure out what we're calling these, because also, why would you do 100 and then Roman numerals? That's just, I just don't like it. But I like just about everything else about this camera. Now, if you're a gear guy like me, you know that you'll use any excuse to pick up a new camera. And honestly, that's what I did. No, Fuji didn't send me this. It wasn't rented through the job. I used my hard-earned cash, picked this up on my own, and I don't regret it. Here's a couple of reasons why. This summer, I've been moving around a lot. I ended up, just in July alone, went from Vegas to Malta to DC to Chicago and then back home in Jersey. A majority of that moving around was doing festival coverage. As a lot of you guys know, I work for Paramount, and what that means is I support all the different brands under Paramount, everything from BET and VH1 and MTV, all the way to Showtime, Paramount Plus, and CBS. This summer I spent a lot of time working with MTV as we did a bunch of festivals. The Isle of MTV over in Malta, we did some Broccoli City coverage, as well as Lollapalooza. My job normally is as a director of photography or a DP, which means that I'm working more on the video world. I'm making sure the lighting is good, I'm making sure everything looks good. Occasionally I'm directing as well. That's my role on set, and mostly working with video. But occasionally, I'll dabble in the photography world. And that's what we're gonna talk about and focus on today. Let me start off by saying this isn't my first Fuji camera. I actually had the X100V, or the X100V, I guess we'll call it now. And that was my go-to BTS camera. Anytime I'm on set, anytime I needed to grab a quick flick, a quick whatever, I was using that camera. It was my pocket camera, it was my everyday camera, and I absolutely loved it. It's not the smallest camera in the world, but it's small enough where I feel like I can get a great quality out of it and it's not too cumbersome in my bag or whatever. Truly, truly loved that camera. I lost that camera in Costa Rica in February and it killed me. Been without a BTS camera pretty much since then. I picked up the Osmo around that time as well, and so I kind of focused more on that. But once again, I was missing that photo camera that I could just carry around. I do have a Canon R5, but you know, that's a bit bigger. You know, that's not as small as this is. And so leading into this past month where I knew I'd be traveling a lot, I knew I'd be focusing back on photography, and I knew I'd be doing these festival portraits, I thought, man, this would be a great time to try to get my hands on the X100VI and see how I feel about it for portraits. The 6 already has a higher megapixel count than the 5 did, which is great for me when I need to punch in, recompose a little bit. A lot of these portraits that I'm doing at these festivals are with artists both big and small, and they're on the fly. Maybe have 30 seconds to 5 minutes to try to capture something. Being able to have those extra megapixels, being able to shoot RAW does save you on the back end, which is great. You were able to shoot RAW on the V, but it just didn't have the same megapixel count. Now, I normally, in past festivals, would keep a Canon R on one side and an R5 on the other. And so the R5 would be my go-to, whatever my principal focus was for that photo session. If I'm doing performance shots, I'll keep a 70 to 200 on my hip with the R5. If I'm doing portraits, I'll keep a 24 to 70 on the R5, and then whatever the opposite lens is, I'll keep on the Canon R on the flip side. This time around, I kept pretty much the 70 to 200 on my R5 the entire time. And for my portraits, all my portraits were shot using the X100VI, every single one of them. And when I tell you I'm super impressed with how these came out, oh my goodness, I couldn't be happier. And the resolution, that extra megapixel bump, I can tell the difference. Being able to shoot in RAW was great. And I will say this, that the recipes, and maybe this is just because I'm editing in Capture One, the recipes do burn into the RAW a little bit. I'm sure there's enough room where you can walk it back, or it's probably a sidecar thing of when I'm importing these files into Capture One. But that recipe was in there. Never was it bothersome to me, but it was enough where I was like, okay, cool, let me be aware of what I'm shooting. Now, the great thing is that the image always looked great. This model also has IBIS, or built-in image stabilization, which is probably the biggest thing I hated about the X100V, especially if you try to do any video on that bad boy, it was shaky boots. So being able to have image stabilization built in, extra megapixels, still being able to shoot raw, 6K video, which I haven't used yet, but I'm excited to. It just felt like this was like a no-brainer pickup. So my festival setup consisted of the X100VI on one side, and that would just be for all my wide shots, including when I'm shooting performances, pick up and go, and the R5 for my performance shot close-ups. Now, the one thing that I do wish was better, or a couple of things I wish were better about the FUJIFilm X100V. Focus definitely takes a second to get used to. It's not the quickest focus. Once it grabs you, cool, but it will also lose you. That was a little disappointing, especially for the performance shots. It took a little bit. We had to find it. Other issues, the build feels a little different. Like, I'll hold this next to the mic. You hear that? Like, I don't like that at all. Feels like it's like a shell and stuff is moving around in there. Let me see, maybe it's the battery. Hold on, let me take that out and just give us a fighting chance here. Because honestly, that kind of just started. Let me see. Nope. Nope, it's still in there. So certain things in terms of build quality, outside it feels good. It's metal encased. I have the hood on here that's aftermarket. It has some moments. Flares. Definitely ran into some flaring issues. We were shooting in Chicago in the middle of the day. Sun is beaming. That sun was directly overhead, so we used that as a backlight. But man, when I was getting into the lens, it was flaring all over the place. And so luckily I was able to kind of bring that back and make it feel like something in post. But there were a few shots that I got, especially at Lollapalooza, that flare I had to work around. Other things that I didn't like. Honestly, there wasn't a lot. Like, I was really pleased with how this performed and how these images came out, especially for the size. I had a lot of fun with this over the last month, and I'm really excited to see, you know, what we continue to work on and what we continue to create. So yeah, it was great. The R5, as always, super performed as well. Here are some of the performance shots from that. In terms of our entire setup, so I had the X100V with a Godox AD, let me make sure I say it right. The Godox AD200 with a nice little light dome on top of it. And it was just literally like, for most of these, one-man band. I'll probably do another video breaking down some of the settings that I used for that. But man, that was a game changer too. And so just being able to have just a camera this small, a light that small and portable, and get images that, in my opinion, look this great. It's night and day from last year, where I had the Canon R5 with a 24-70, and then a Pro Photo with an umbrella. So I couldn't even hold and shoot at the same time. I had to have an assistant. And granted, those images, oh, I love it. And I love the light quality that came out of that, that light and that setup, but it just wasn't realistic for trying to run around. Last year it rained, it was mud on the umbrella. It was just, it became a lot as the days went on. So I wanted to downsize, get something small without sacrificing quality. And I think that this was that solution. So if you're thinking about picking up an X100VI, I know they are super sold out and all over the place. You don't want to know how much I paid to pick this bad boy up, and it was definitely above market value. But I still think that it was worth it. Definitely worth it at the end of the day. And if you don't need that extra megapixels and you don't need that image stabilization because you're not going to do any video stuff or whatever, go ahead and pick yourself up an X100V. Like, you don't really need the 6 if it's not, in my opinion, for those things. It's the V, I didn't really have complaints with either. It's like my complaints come now because I now have its older brother. Thank you guys again for tuning in. If you have any questions about it, drop them below. I'll try to answer, make any other videos that you guys want to know about it, maybe share some of the recipes that I used, and yeah, give you guys any insight. I know it's been a little inconsistent on the channel with posting. I'm gonna try to do better, but man, it's been a very busy year. Just getting back from Chicago this week, that made my 30th flight for the year, and we're only in August. So to be a little over halfway through the year and pretty much on a flight at least once or twice a month is ridiculous. But I'm grateful, I'm blessed, I'm happy to be working, I'm happy to be able to be creating content, creating stuff that still excites me, and being able to share with you guys. So give me some grace in terms of the posting all over, but always thank you for tuning. And if there's, you know, anything you took away from this, then drop a little subscribe. Hit that little button over there in the corner. We have a good time over there. I'll be vibing. I feel like I'm normally funnier. I feel like I was a little dry. I'll be honest, I'm shooting on this Black Magic and the battery was like running out, and I'll be trying to figure it out sometimes. Like, I don't know how, maybe I just need to get a setup that's just locked in, because I feel like this looks cool. And it wasn't too much, but man, I don't be feeling like setting up lights in my living room all the time. Thank you guys. Feel free to hit me up about anything. You can follow me, my name, Jarred.McGriff on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. Peace.